G'day, I'm Dan Raff, welcome back to the channel and bienvenue à Le Mans for the fourth round of the first season of the 2021 Manufacturer Series. We are in Group 3 and this is a combination that is, well, weird. I don't really think that this track is altogether that suited for Group 3, or the other way around I suppose. But we'll have a go, and especially in the Subaru, not known for its top speed, and speed is what Le Mans is famous for, and what this track really requires. So as we move down the grid, we see some more familiar names, and you find me in P11 on the grid. So let's take a look at my qualifying lap. And I'm going to say something that is really sacrilegious, as I have a terrible time through that first chicane. But yeah, I'm going to say something that's really sacrilegious. I'm not a huge fan of this track. I find it really rather boring. There's nothing about it necessarily that's overly difficult. Although I do have some trouble in sections, and you'll see that through this race. It's because I'm just not used to racing here. It's not a track that I bring up in arcade mode when I just want to race for fun or just drive around. It just doesn't interest me, yeah, slipstream is absolutely necessary, especially in this car. Unfortunately, throughout this race, the only slipstream partners I get, and again only briefly, Porsches or other Subarus, and not really cars that are known for their top speed in this game. So it's a push. It really is a push to get a result out of this, and it just keeps going, doesn't it? The Mulsanne straight. I know a couple of the names of corners and bits and pieces of this track, but I don't know it all, and I am terrible with French. I trip over the words like you wouldn't believe. So I will butcher pronunciation, and I will essentially say it in, I guess, Frozzy. If you're wondering what Frozzy is, it's basically French spoken with a thick Australian accent. It doesn't really work, as in order to avoid a collision with Ralph, I just bin it almost and get a track limit penalty for my trouble, which is great on a qualifying lap, and great when you've only got one lap that actually counts. One chance. This is a one-shot deal with this track because it's so long, and only a 6-minute qualifier. It gives you enough time to get around on your outlap, and then and then do one lap to actually get a qualifying time. But Ralph cops himself a 1-second penalty as well, and we're not the only ones who have a bad qualifier. As I serve my penalty here after Arnage, which is what I mistakenly called Rivage on at Spa. I as I say, French gets me confused. Up into this right-hand bend, I think it's called the Porsche curve, I could be wrong, and Tubicosian gets loose there, so yeah. But Ralph is about to serve his penalty in there are 3 penalty serving zones on this track, as Chezo goes wrong. And the one where Ralph serves is probably the least punishing. The other two are just dreadful. But, I mean, he got a 1 second penalty and I still couldn't overtake him. Gives you an idea of the difference in serving a penalty here versus on the Mulsanne straight or after Arnage. It makes a really big difference. So a 412, not stellar. Not stellar at all, but, you know, as we move down the grid, you'll see that a lot of other people had disastrous qualifiers. And, you know, again, a number of Subis in this race. Good to see, though. In the last season, the exhibition series that happened over the summer, I was often the only Subi in the you know, in the race, and it felt kind of lonely. So, Gayu, I'll call him, has one of the most awesome liveries I've seen. I really like it. And Jimmy's in this race as well, down in P17. We don't see much from him, unfortunately. From all accounts, he had a disastrous race. But we get started here at Circuit de l'Essarts, as it's otherwise known, with a tricolore across the sky. And Kerry Impact immediately lives up to his name. And starting on a rolling start in Le Mans, having to start behind two chicanes, essentially. And I think I'll echo what I've heard a number of other people say, in that the rolling starts in this game could be improved. You know, we could be going 2 by 2. We could be closer together, and I think on tracks like this, a standing start would have been better. You know, they could have had us much closer together and all in front of that chicane. You know, or given that it's Le Mans, perhaps adding a bit of a first-person vibe and having us run across the track and getting in our cars on a 45-degree angle and then taking off. That would be that'd be fun too, but I don't know how they'd work that. And I know they don't actually do that anymore at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, but yeah. So we managed to stay behind Tommy in his slipstream in the Peugeot. And just take a peek, and the reason I tried to get a run on him, but not enough space, and that not enough space issue on this straight, which is an ironic problem to have, really, considering its length. It kind of puts me off a little bit later in the race, as you'll see. And funnily enough, I mean, I know that the this straight is considerably longer than the one at Fuji by quite a margin, and yet it still doesn't feel as long for some reason. I can't work that out. I mean, I imagine if we were using the version of the track with the chicanes removed, it would, you know, that straight would feel its length, but yeah. I don't know, it has another name, that straight, but don't ask me to pronounce it. It won't go well. And down into Mulsanne corner for the first time, and Biggs and Ralph got a little bit tied up there. I don't really know what happened, but the game seems to think that Ralph was at fault for Biggs going off and has slapped him with a 2-second penalty. Given it was Mulsanne, and look, I've raced against Ralph and Biggs many times before. They're not dirty drivers, so it was likely a racing incident. It wouldn't have been deliberate, I don't believe. So, but yeah, you know, this game isn't really too concerned whether or not something is deliberate. If you make contact with another car and they fly off the track, regardless of how it happens, it's going to slap you with a penalty. So, unfortunately for Ralph, but fortunately for us, because he's about to serve that penalty here after Arnage, and that gives us an easy overtake into P8. And this section of the track, essentially everything from here up to the start finish line, it's the sector I've had the most trouble with, and it's because it's so flat. I mean, this course is so flat and featureless that you just have to know where you are, because there's not really much in the way of landmarks to sort of say, oh, you're on this corner or you're on that corner, because the track just doesn't undulate as much as I like it to. So, and yep, terrible through there, completely outbraked myself. I had a lot of trouble with those chicanes, especially in practice. Could not get the braking point right, and that gives Ralph his P8 back. And I go up and down the order like a yo-yo during this race. And as we come up to the Dunlop Bridge, you're about to see why, following on from the last race, the last Nations Cup race, where I spoke about the importance of your sportsmanship rating, you're about to see why. You're about to see that in action again from the other side. Because I repaired my sportsmanship rating and, found myself back in a lobby with other drivers who care about their sportsmanship rating. And as you can see, I'm racing in a pack of 5 cars. We're going through corners sideways or side by side, and everybody's staying respectful, everybody's staying clean, and we come onto the Moan straight quite close together. And as we come up to the first chicane, potential for disaster. I'm a big loser out of this though. I had to sort of swerve to avoid a collision or avoid out-braking myself, because I didn't account for the slipstream as well as I should have. So I do drop down into 13th, managed to get back up into 12th, but I've got ocular raffle in the BMW right behind me. And as we continue down the straight, the power of the BMW is just too much for me to fend off, and so he takes P12 and puts me down into 13th as we enter the second chicane on the straight and head down to the Moan turn. And my car just really doesn't like the corners on this track. Moan and Arnage especially, There's a yellow flag up ahead as we come to the end of lap 2. And it's whack-a-wee. That sounds really painful. So we get P12 back as we start lap 3. But the corners on this track, the right turns especially, my car just doesn't like them. Moan and Arnage, and then as we come through the chicane, Tommy's had a spill, so we get P11 back. But as I turn into Moan and Arnage especially, or even just as I'm braking and getting ready to turn, the car just wants to flick right and the back end wants to go out. So it's a lot to keep it under control. And here on the straight behind Siratama, I thought about giving him a bump draft, but I just didn't know where I was on the track and how much room and space I had to do that. And I mean, in hindsight, it would have been fine, but I really didn't want to send him careening into the wall in the chicane. That would have been bad for him and bad for me. And yeah, so despite being polite, I get a half a second track penalty. But also at Indianapolis, the entire back section, really, my car doesn't like it. Just wants to turn in too early. As we come to the end of lap 3, Ralph is into the pits, coming off the hard tyres. I mean, in terms of the strategy in this race, I'm doing a no stop on the hards. I qualified on the mediums, and I just put the hards on to start the race and stayed with the race on the hards for the entire race. But I haven't gone off yet. Okay, so I went off once, but I recovered. It was fine. It's fine. But yeah, and as we come up to the end of lap 4, and Biggs is off again, so we're up to P9. Around this section of the track, which I think was an afterthought. Obviously, I mean, it was, you know, here for a reason. After that tragedy in 1955, they had to completely redesign the back end of the track to, you know, stop cars from coming in through the start-finish at the speeds they used to, because it was just too dangerous. But yeah, we'll move into cockpit view for my fastest lap, which was lap 5. And what I found surprising about this race is how much strategy did and did not play a part in how well you did. As I said, I'm doing a no stop on the hards, and I have gained, and you know, I have gained a couple of positions, you know, since dropping back to 13th. I've gained a few from, you know, people going off, but also from people going into the pits and changing onto, you know, either because they started on the mediums and had to, you know, do at least one lap on the hards, or because they started on the hards and wanted to finish on the mediums. The problem with that is that the pit loss is enormous. It's you know, 25 plus seconds. So and the fuel and tyre wear settings during this race mean that it's entirely possible to do a no stop. You know, don't need to refuel, don't need to change tyres. But if you want to do that, you have to start on the hards. And our pole sitter, Ben, you know, got pole position and leads for the majority of this race. He makes a very poor decision with regard to his strategy, and it really bites him very hard. And you'll see what happens at the end of the race with that. And, you know, when I came into this race, I didn't really expect much from it. I only attempted it once. I didn't want to do it again. Yeah, it was very boring. Very boring. You know. But then this track is boring. I mean, look, I'm sure that in a proper, you know, LMP car, it's... You know, you're flying around here at 300 plus kilometers an hour. It's anything but boring. But in a Group 3, not so much. The cars and the track just aren't made for each other. So we're following and closing in on Siratama, Subaru teammate up ahead. We come through Indianapolis, and you can see that the car just really wants to oversteer through there, and again also through you know, through Arnage. I don't understand how they can drive around this track for 24 hours without just falling asleep. I mean, I know it's not just one driver for the entire 24 hours, although there was that one guy where we're bound to have another race here at some point during the year, so I'll find out who that was. I saw on a doco that there was this guy who just he did the entire race 24 hours in, like, after having already been awake for like 2 days or something, and he just did the entire 24-hour race, and and I think he did quite well out of it, actually. So Siratama getting a little bit loose. And a little bit further on, he loses it completely, and I take P8 from him. So, onto the final lap now, and yeah. There's a penalty up ahead. Not that I'll be able to take much advantage of it. I'm so far back. I mean, at the start of the race, the field had divided into, I guess, 3 packs. There was the lead pack, who got away because they started ahead of the chicanes. There was a mid pack made up of drivers who started behind the chicanes but got through them okay, and then the rest at the rear who started behind the chicanes and perhaps didn't get through them terribly well. So, but now at the end of the race, the field really has spread out. But as you can see from the leaderboard, Ben is currently leading the race, and he's in a battle with Severable Man for the lead, and the gap back to us is less than 45 seconds. So, as we come up to the Porsche curve, we see Severable Man crossing the line in first, Ben hot on his heels in P2. But Luke Dispute crosses the line in P3. Now it's Aragon. Something's happened up the front there. I mean, it's really no great mystery. I don't know why I'm building the suspense so much, but look, this race was so long and boring that I had to do something to keep you watching. So we come around the chicanes for the last time to cross the finish line in P8, or not. And we're promoted to P7, and as we take a look, we see Ben. He did the whole race on a set of mediums and copped himself a 1-minute penalty. Ouch. He'd be kicking himself. But I'm not, though. P7 finish is a really good result considering my initial expectations. Well, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that, please leave a like and comment below to let me know how you did in the race, or just to say hi. Next up is the 4th round of the Nations Cup, and that is in Group 3 at Suzuka. Or it could possibly be the first round of the Olympic Virtual Series. At the time of recording, the schedule for that is yet to drop, but do subscribe so you don't miss any of the action regardless. I'm Dan Raff, and I'll see you at the next race.